Hello and welcome to another episode of 1000 Actually Fun Books, where we review books of every genre looking for the best of fun escapist books. Today we're reviewing a book called Into the Black by Evan Currie. It is the first of a sci-fi, at least a trilogy, that's called Odyssey 1, name of the trilogy. So let's start with the plot of the book. So we have Earth having created their first interstellar vessel, and it is a military, not an exploration vessel, but they've got a brand new drive on it that can propel it from star system to star system, passing through light years basically instantaneously. It's not what you think of as a warp drive. Think of it more like a teleportation device and go from here to there in an instant. Okay, so they have this new drive and they're testing it out. So they have a full crew complement on this ship, like about 300 people. It's fully outfitted, which is interesting for a shakedown cruise, their first cruise. The captain, is first entering their vessel. I mean, it just feels a little bit weird on how they have this set up, but whatever. Anyway, the plot is that they take their first step into the wider galaxy, go explore somewhere, and they come across the remnants of a battle. There are clear patterns of exploded ships, a debris field, and so they kind of go and investigate, and they find a survivor. And they bring the survivor on board, and then they track where the one side of the conflict went. And so the captain makes a decision to follow that and find out a little bit more information. So most of the first third of it is kind of gathering information, setting up the scene, whatever, and then the last 2/3 of it are epic battles, space battles and ground battles and other battles between our intrepid, heroic, cowboyish vessel from humanity, and then the evil insectoid alien aggressors. And so that's pretty much all you really need to know about the book as far as the plot goes. So the plot is a little bit generic, I will say, but that doesn't mean that it's not fun. So let's start with some of the things that I like. So one of the things I did like were the epic battles, dun dun dun. So we have a lot of variety in the battles. You have the space battles between our big capital ships, our main vessel and the other main vessels. You also have battles with little fighters that our capital ships eject. You also have ground battles on a planet where the Marines or the guerrilla forces, whatever you want to call it, go down and battle aliens in an urban environment. And so you have a lot of variety, and they switch scenes a lot. And for the most part, the battles are interesting. There's some adrenaline going on for a reader. It's very engaging as far as your attention goes, and you don't get too lost. The author doesn't do a horrible job, like some authors do, of being too technical or too detailed or too obscure. So I did get a little bit lost in the people, but not necessarily the events. So that's a positive, definitely. So long, multi-pronged fleet battles of space alien variety. That was a lot of fun. So I really like that. And that's really what you're reading this book for, honestly. If you are choosing to read this book, it's for the space battles. All right. I also like this it's kind of tropey, but I still like it, is the Earth swoops in looking like it should be the underdog of wimpy proportions. Instead, it comes swooping in. Her heroically rescues the day, saving the good aliens as the good aliens look on in awe at our capabilities. Okay, it's, again, a little bit tropey, to put it that way, and but it's fun. It really is. It feels very superhero-ish. It feels a little bit superficial in some respect. Our good guys kind of have a little bit of plot armor going on where they, like, nobody that you might be even slightly emotionally attached to will ever get hurt, at least not in this book. So there is that, but I like it. It's fun, kind of pulpy feeling, but it's It's a good job. As far as, you feel like, epically swept up in their heroics. So that's fun. Another thing I like about this book is the romance, or rather, the lack of romance. So I don't mind romance in my books, but this one, it takes place over the course of maybe 2 or 3 days. And the person that they rescue from the initial wreckage that they came across, that initial debris field, is a female. And most of our characters are male. But you don't have this, I see the instant, the alien female, and I immediately fall in love, and, and it's, they fall over each other or anything like that. No, instead there's zero romance in that. And it makes it a lot more real. As far as these characters care about survival, not about, oh, I get distracted by the kiss of the beautiful woman or something like that, which would be really ridiculous to have included in this book, so I'm glad that they didn't. So that's pretty much the big things that I like about this book, and it does have a very fun feel to it. The things that I dislike, it's kind of smaller in weight, but I'm going to name them anyway. One of which is our captain in the third of the book, it kind of makes what I would consider stupid decisions. Like, again, you're on a vessel that you're not really familiar with, or at least that's the impression you get, with weapon systems that really haven't been tested, and you come across a debris field of an epic battle that turns out, you think, very one-sided. And so you see the victors have gone off in such and such a direction, and the captain decides, let's go follow them. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? They clearly overpowered this other whole fleet. We'll go check it out. I mean, that's just, without any intel, this seems like a really stupid idea. He doesn't return home, like really he should have, and reported what's going on and then gotten, orders to go and check it out. He just on his own says, let's go look at it. Then their female that they had picked up from the debris field wakes up and tells them all about it and says, yes, our biggest and best fleet did nothing. We couldn't even damage the bad guys. And yet, they still go after him. So to me, this is one example of what I would consider really stupid decisions by our main character's point. Another completely different, but still illustrating the stupid decisions, I think, or perhaps I should just say not stupid in this case, maybe just unrealistic. So here they are, a military vessel, and, top secret, basically. They get this woman, they bring her in, and the first little bit of evaluation, they're very cautious. So they're wearing suits, and, they have to figure out new language and that kind of thing to try and communicate with this person. But once they figure out that she's a female, and a human female, I should say, that she doesn't seem like she's, super hostile, she basically gets free reign over the ship and any questions answered, an immediate connection. She basically becomes part of the crew. And that, again, seems really weird. Like, especially in contrast with the first initial, let's be really cautious and make sure that she doesn't get any information from us until we can evaluate it. But as soon as they have that initial, she's totally trustworthy. And then it goes on from there. There's never any question that she's basically part of the crew, for all intents and purposes. And again, this just seems like a really weird, both a weird flop in how they interacted with her, very sudden, and then how extreme it is. I mean, they have just total trust, totally. And it just doesn't seem like it's a realistic situation, I didn't think. So there were a couple things like that happened in the book. This is almost all in the first third of the book. Once you get to what the author really wanted, everything is like set up for the space battles and the confrontation with the bad guys. That's really what the author is all just doing this to rush through to get to. It's basically like the author really likes his space battles and having Earthlings come to the rescue. And so he's like, well, how can I get this set up? Well, this may not be really realistic, but it gets the setup that I want, so we're going to go that way. That's kind of how it felt. So again, kind of that unrealistic, pulpy feel. There was a little bit of trouble with too many characters to keep track of, because you have think several people on the ground, and several people on fighters, and several people on the capital ship, and you've got several departments on the capital ship. And so by the time, you're, I don't know, 2/3 of the way through the book, it was like, which one is that again? I know it's a ground trooper, but I can't tell the difference between any of the ground troopers. And I know that that's a fighter pilot person, but I can't tell the difference between any of them. That kind of feel to it. Now, the author is not into character development really at all. So it's not, they're kind of generic characters. It doesn't matter which trooper on the ground it is, they're pretty much all the same. They're interchangeable. So that can be a bit of an issue if you want, especially if you want in-depth emotional connection with these characters. You're not going to get it. So there is that. There is a little bit of the lack of detail sometimes, especially like walking around the ship or walking around on the planet. What is it that they're seeing, experiencing, feeling, whatever. Sometimes there's a little bit of lack of that. That one's not too bad, but it is there. There are a couple of unexplained abbreviations, mostly military terms, I think. Somebody who has a military background maybe could totally identify these terms, but I don't, and so I don't always know what they mean. And again, that's not a big deal because you can just gloss over it and it doesn't make any difference to the story, but it is kind of annoying. It would be nice if they explained the abbreviations at least once at the beginning so you know what it is that they're talking about. The language barrier thing, it's interesting. Again, the author really is trying to gloss over this as fast as possible. Like, the author is like, we must have some language issues because that's realistic, but I don't want to deal with it, so we're just going to have this guy solve it immediately. And ta-da, problem solved, let's move on. That's kind of the way that the author handles it, which, okay, fine, whatever, but it's still kind of, it can be a little too cheesy in that respect. Okay, so that's kind of my overall thoughts on this. However, I'm going to give it thumbs up because it was fun. It was on the verge of whether it was really good or not, but I'm going to, bump it up. It's a 4 out of 5 kind of thing, and I'm going to bump it up to a 5 because I don't have 4 out of 5 on my rating system. And somebody who's looking for that space battle type of book probably will find this on the lighter end of the spectrum of, epic sci-fi stories, but still fun. So it was still enjoyable. So I will give it a thumbs up. Now, I have been doing a part 2 where I say what I'm going to do next, but I was actually intending to do a different book this week. and I was intending to do a different book last time or the time before that. I've just had too many books where I've been like, oh no, I'm going to do a different book instead. And since that's the case, I'm going to skip doing part 2 from now on. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to review what I review. So there is no part 2. I hope you enjoyed this, and please join me next time as we continue reviewing books. Thank you for watching.